realize that this young person is just a facade. You have another initiative in ICT that is called Ajira. You have another initiative in Public Service Commission that is called internship. So all these initiatives are fragmented. What we are going to do in the Ministry of Youth, if I'm approved, is to make sure that there is a oversight. These all initiatives across ministries are going to be reported to the Ministry of Youth so that we can collate them and we make sure the oversight and make sure that we force all government ministries, departments and agencies to make sure in their performance contracting they report annually how many youth are benefited from the programs and with clear statistics of where the youth are found. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of Honorable Raso, I agree with him that we need to establish, and again it goes to the policy, that what kind of study are you going to build in different parts of the country, and we must make sure that is why the absence here is the disjointed relationship between the national government and county government, because there is no intergovernmental framework under the law that makes sure that we work together to establish those community training grounds and the issue of stadium. The issue of Marsabit Stadium, Mr. Speaker, I will make sure that I follow up personally. I was really wishing to go to Marsabit as a Minister of Roads and Transport because we have some airstrips we were working on there, and also we are open to the Lapset corridor. We want to put that ICD there. So, Mr. Speaker, I will go now. I will go now, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of this ministry, if I'm approved, to make sure that the stadium is completed.
We want you to shift your hat from roads to youth and sports if you are confirmed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, but as a cabinet secretary, you still have the responsibility of supporting
I know there is
the rest of government.
Responsibility, but don't live in nostalgia. Let's have now, yes, Junet.
Point, when we are looking at the suitability of a nominee, we also look at his commitment to the work he's going for. So I wanted to ask, your removal from roads transport to Ministry of Sports Youth, do you see it as a demotion?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, there is a committee of ministries. Mr. Speaker, when I was in roads and transport, I never at any point thought that my colleague in youth and creative economy and sports was a lesser minister than myself. So I don't see any ministry to be different from the other.
Shuria?
Thank you,
one question, Meshi, one question, Rahab, yes. One question.
Thank you. Let me just add, as everyone was talking about Stadia, Mheshimiwa, we don't have any Stadia in Northeastern Province, 0. So you better add that into your list. There's no sports.
Meshi?
I think we do better than, I haven't even asked my question, sir. My question. That was just a comment.
I told you to stop preambles to questions.
Mr. Speaker, if everybody spoke for their region and I don't say that, I'll be killed once I leave here.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Murkomen, youth employment and job creation. Matrix requires concerted efforts, including mainstreaming of the issues in all ministry policies, rather than youth ministry as a standalone solution point. So what is your take and what measures will you champion to achieve this complete mainstreaming in all ministries to push the agenda of youth? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Mishi.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti. Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, nimemsikiza Mheshimiwa Murkomen ambaye pengine anaweza kuwa waziri wa vijana na michezo. Lakini nataka nimregeshe nyuma wakati akiwa waziri wa mambo ya barabara na uchukuzi. Sisi kama watu wa Likoni kupitia bunge niliuliza swala la kivuko cha Mtongwe na tukaweka pesa ambayo ilikuwa ijenge kivuko cha Mtongwe cha feri. Rampu hiyo ilijengwa kidogo tu, yani kama mbeni mfano tu wa kujenga. Baada ya kuweka mamilioni ya pesa. Mpaka leo ferry channel, kwa wale ambao hawajui Kiswahili, Mtongwe ferry channel. Mpaka leo kivuko kile hakifanyi kazi, wakazi wa Mtongwe wanataabika sana kuvuka kwenda katika ngambo ya pili. Vile vile ile floating bridge ambayo ilikuwa pale iliyotengezwa kwa milioni 300 ilikuja ikakatizwa kwa ghafla bila kuita wananchi kuwaeleza kumeenda vipi ama kumekwenda vipi. Sasa mimi nauliza, umezungumza maneno matamu ya kumtoa nyoka pangoni, lakini kusema sio kutenda. Unaweza kusema na ikawa ni mkono mtupu au rambwi. Mimi nataka nimuulize waziri, utatutibishia vipi ya kwamba haya ulioyasema hazitakuwa ahadi za urongo kama zile ulizoahidi kupitia wizara yako kwa watu wa Likoni, na mpaka leo wanalia hakuna floating bridge iliyekwa wakati wa regime ya nyuma, sasa hakuna tena, kivuko cha Mtongwe hakuna. Mwisho tupe tathmini ya talanta hela. Asante mwenyekiti.
Oka amekatalia pangoni. Yes,
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rahab.
Yeah, to the nominee, I don't know whether you are aware that most of the constituencies, we don't have youth officers for the last 5 to 7 years. And I'm sure you need those youth officers because they'll help you to go on the ground and do mapping and know exactly what is happening on the ground. Honorable Speaker, I've also received another question from your friend, Honorable Murkomen. They are asking, if you are confirmed, what are you going to do to gain their confidence, your youth? Thank you.
Nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me start with Honorable Shuria. First of all, youth, no, I agree first that there are no studies in the, as I said earlier, in the arid and semi-arid areas. When I was doing the tournament last year, Mr. Speaker, Turkana players were playing on a sand pitch, Mr. Speaker. It's very disheartening to see how marginalization is being perpetuated, and I think we need to correct that, to give facilities to young people in the arid and semi-arid areas. And I have been deliberate, even in the Ministry of Roads, to make sure that arid and semi-arid areas are also taken care of. Mr. Speaker, on the question of youth mainstreaming, I agree with Honorable Shuria also that we shouldn't talk about youth only to be confined to youth department or the youth ministry. It is a mainstreamed issue across the board, and that's why I said earlier that the youth ministry itself should provide oversight whether the other departments of government are achieving the objective of creating employment and creating opportunities for young people to do business and making sure that they are given access to have a voice. Mr. Speaker, part of those initiatives that were done after post-election violence by the second term of President Kibaki was to have a National Youth Council, which has never been operationalized up to now. I participated in the youth agenda in the whole conversation about how to operationalize the National Youth Council. I want to promise the people of Kenya that we are going to give the young people of Kenya a voice to elect their own leaders from grassroots national level, so that then the objective of National Youth Council is going to be achieved, where they will have their own leaders elected by themselves. Part of the reasons why young people are in the streets protesting is because they feel that they are not being involved in decision making, or they have no voice, they have no channels of releasing that which they would like to give to the country. And I don't want tokenism in this case. They must also be part of the decision making. Mr. Speaker, when I got any opportunity to appoint board members in the previous ministry where I was, Mr. Speaker, without being nostalgic, I made sure that youth were in every agency that I appointed. In fact, in some of them, like the Kenya Railway, there are more than 2. If you go to Kenya Ports Authority, we appointed a 26-year-old board member. And these are big corporations that people think that young people should not be sitting there. I made sure that there was a deliberate effort to mentor. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Murkomen has asked a question: can the youth of Kenya trust me to lead them? They should trust me because of my track record. My track record, Mr. Speaker, in the previous ministry speaks for itself. My track record as a senator speaks for itself. My track record as a mentor. I have mentored people, Mr. Speaker, who have become members of parliament.
That is what you started with.
Leaders and MCAs. No, but the question was asked that how do they trust me? They should trust me because I have mentored young people until some have accessed higher positions of governance in this country. And if they got a minister that they should be proud of, and they will be seeing, it is Kipchumba Murkomen.
If you are confirmed.
Yeah, if I'm confirmed. Mr. Speaker, on the question of Honorable Mishi, Ningependa kusema
jibu Kiswahili kile sanifu watu wangu pia waelewe.
Bwana Spika, tumetenda
Kiswahili ni Kiswahili, sanifu or the opposite.
Bwana Spika, tumetenda kazi nyingi sana katika poti ya Mombasa, na nilianzia hapo awali wakati niliposema tumeimarisha biashara katika poti ya Mombasa. Sasa hivi uongozi wa poti ya Mombasa, mkurugenzi,
kwa nini hukumaliza kivuko cha Mtongwe?
Ndio nakuja hapo.
Kwa nini floating bridge ilitolewa?
Ndio ninasema hivyo, yes. Bwana Spika, kuimarisha utendakazi katika poti ya Mombasa ilikuwa pamoja na kuondoa ile floating bridge yenye ilikuwa pale, kwa sababu ilikuwa inapoteza masaa 8 ya biashara katika poti ya Mombasa. Ukisikia kwamba biashara kwa poti ya Mombasa imeinuka, ni kwa sababu tulitoa zile vikwazo ambazo zilikuwa zinatufanya tusifikie malengo yetu kama wizara ya uchukuzi. Na kwa hivyo kuna mara nyingine lazima uhakikishe ya kwamba unaangalia faida yenye inatokezea kwa watu wote wa Likoni, sio wachache. Ya pili, Bwana Spika, tumeharakisha ile barabara ambayo ni Southern Bypass yenye inaweza kufukisha wananchi kupitia Dongo Kundu bila kutumia ile bridge. Ya tatu, Bwana Spika, nilisafiri na Mheshimiwa Rais tukahakikisha kwamba tutaanzisha ile bridge ya Likoni Bridge, mpango kubwa sana ambayo itabadilisha maisha ya watu ya Likoni na Mombasa. Na kwa hivyo Mtongwe Bridge ferry, Bwana Spika, kweli ni kweli kwamba tumeanza kazi, na ninaamini ya kwamba wale wamebaki pale watahakikisha wamemaliza yenye imebaki. Bwana Spika, nakubaliana na Mheshimiwa Mwishi kwamba kusema si kutenda, na ni ukweli kwamba Bwana Spika, nilitenda mengi bila kusema. Ni wazi ya kwamba wewe na naibu spika Mheshimiwa Gladys Sholei mlisema wazi ya kwamba makosa kubwa ya serikali hii ni kwamba hatujatangaza vilivyo yale yote ambayo tumetenda. Kwa hivyo, kwa sababu nimepata nafasi hii, hayo ni baadhi ya mambo ambayo tumetenda katika wizara hiyo. Bwana Spika,
kwanza uvoda mwenyekiti. Bwana Spika, mwenyekiti, nataka hapa ieleweke, kwa sababu huu mradi wa floating bridge haukufanyika kitambo, na ukumbuke ulitumia milioni 300. Sasa ukisema muliitoa tu kwa mambo mengine wakati ilipokuwa inatekelezwa, hamkufikiria hizo milioni 300 za Wakenya zimepotea tu kiholela.
Bwana Spika, ni kweli kwamba tumepoteza milioni 300, lakini tumetengeneza bilioni ngapi? Tumeongeza faida ya poti kwa bilioni 10. Ukilinganisha milioni
faida au
mapato tuseme, but it's faida because it's the difference between the 60 billion we raise and the amount that is Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to call it profit, but yes, if you really want to call it profit, it's profit by 10 billion shillings. And so to chase 300 million at the expense of 10 billion, it was a wise decision to make sure that you do away with that floating bridge for the benefit. Mr. Speaker, Mheshimiwa aliuliza talanta hela.
Yes.
Hii ni kusema kwamba tuko tayari kubadilisha talanta yako ikupatie hela, na ni kwa njia nyingi, kwa kuweza kuanzisha katika mashinani yale miradi ambayo yatahakikisha kwamba kuna mchipuko, Bwana Spika, ya michezo hali mbalimbali, pia ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeleta teknolojia kusaidia kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya ambao wako na talanta wanaweza kutangaza talanta yao na kuweza kupata hela kwa mifuko yao, Bwana Spika, kulingana na ile bottom up economic transformation agenda ya serikali hii. Bwana Spika, mwisho ningependa kusema yale maswali ya Mheshimiwa Rehab Mukami, that we don't have the youth officers. It is true. As I told you, the youth department has been neglected. And even where we have youth officers, they are not utilized. Because if you have 51 million to run your core projects across the country, it is evident that you are not going to be able to utilize those people. There was a request already that has been made to Treasury to support programs for youth, and also because of this Nyota program that we are going to start, we will need these youth officers in every constituency to be replaced and to be supported to make sure that they can do the work that they need to do. What are you giving to do there? To gain the confidence, Mr. Speaker. There is no other way. There is no other way of gaining confidence except to work.
I've already answered that.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
We're going towards the end. Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Murkomen, I just want some undertaking from you. One is the World Championships, which were held in 2025 in Tokyo, was supposed to actually have been held in Kenya, but we lost the bid because all our stadiums, including Kasarani, did not meet the international standard. Right now, because you're building, the stadiums are being refurbished, assure us that you will ensure that we bid for the 2027, or 2029 or 2032, at least in our lifetime, because it was sad that we actually lost this. Also, and I will volunteer to help you do the bidding documents, because I'm good at that. Number two.
In what capacity? He has not been confirmed.
As a pro bono. If he's confirmed. Pro bono if he's confirmed. Also, one other suggestion, the reason why Nigeria, Nollywood is very successful is because they have a law that provides that 70% of their content in their local television stations are local. That's how Nollywood grew. Also, there is a question here by MATIANG'I. Let me just look at that question. Okay, here. I have a message here that says, please ask the incoming Waziri, what is his plan on ensuring that there is no gap of miscommunication or disconnect between the government and the youth Gen Z and Gen Alpha? Does he plan to have an advisor who is this age group so that they can advise him? Asante.
Yeah. Yes, Junet?
I wanted to ask one last question. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the nominee. One of the problems this government, we faced this government in the last 1 or 2 months, Mr. Speaker, emanated from what is called opulence, arrogance, show-off, and unfortunately or fortunately, you are put in the center of it. What is your reply to that? Or what do you say about that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by, yes, I agree with Honorable Cholet that, Mr. Speaker, we should be holding world championships. You remember we held the was it under 17 or under 20? Yes. Most of those athletes, under 20, and we were in Kasarani, and most of those athletes now are at the Olympics. Mr. Speaker, I believe that if we deliver the infrastructure we have talked about to the standard required, we should be able to host it at the next available opportunity. And I want to thank the Honorable Cholet that should I be confirmed, she will also be willing to support, Mr. Speaker, and that is patriotism. That's an act of patriotism. And number two is that this law, I know we have a policy in Kenya, I think it was put at the time of Honorable Tuju, if I'm not wrong, that says 60% of the content should be local, but as a policy, as a directive. But I think we need to move it to law. So when we are revising because we have now a draft creative industry bill and policy, I think as we move to that direction, we should include that in the bill. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Cholet also has talked about communication and reaching out to the younger people. I want to confirm that, Mr. Speaker, I will make sure that I work with the young people, and I will, resources permitting, and it's my wish that I get somebody to work with me who is at the age of what is now called Gen Z or Gen Alpha. That group, Mr. Speaker, who are in their 20s to 30s, Mr. Speaker, I would like to have one of them work in my office office. But also I like to make sure that the internship programs that we also have in the government, some of those who will intern within the ministry to intern in my office, so that they can also help me build my capacity among young people, so that I continue benefiting from the benefits working of these young people. By the way, I want to assure our young people that they should not fear anything about. I am very enthusiastic about sports and youth, and that, Mr. Speaker, is important to make that assurance. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Junet has asked a very pertinent question. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to say this. Mr. Speaker, I am not arrogant. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I am as gentle as a dove. For those who know me, who are my friends, they know that I cannot hurt a fly. Mr. Speaker, I have many friends in this parliament. They know me. And I have many friends who I've worked with. The problem with public service, and particularly if you have been a politician, you are always around here confronting challenges. And sometimes when you speak in a particular manner, it's concluded that that person is arrogant. Mr. Speaker, I am not. And as a Christian, I should not be containing arrogance. Number two, Mr. Speaker, on the question of opulence, Mr. Speaker, I must say this with utmost respect. I do not know even what opulence means, Mr. Speaker. And let me say this. I take it to mean that people who are opulent are the ones that bask in wealth and modern things. You will see them exposing where they are with their families, where they live, showing which car they drive, and all that. Mr. Speaker, I just became a victim, unfortunately, of a crossfire of a conversation. On things, Mr. Speaker, I did not go anywhere to announce to somebody that I wear this, I do that. It's just that some pictures take something you wear, and this, that, Mr. Speaker. Ultimately...
And you spoke carelessly somewhere.
Ultimately, Mr. Speaker...
In some radio show.
It wasn't careless, Mr. Speaker. Ultimately, yes. I was asked in a radio show a direct question. What is the most expensive shoe, tie, watch you have ever worn? Mr. Speaker, I had two choices. You didn't know
it was a trick?
No, it's not a trick. Even if it was a trick, I had two choices. Either to lie or to say the truth.
Or not to answer.
Mr. Speaker, no, let me just come to that.
That was the third
Mr. Speaker, I would have refused to answer, but I also had the opportunity to say the truth. And by saying that truth, Mr. Speaker, having been put that question to me, Mr. Speaker, it was not by my own choice to go and say, and Mr. Speaker, you know, for me who has grown up as a son of a squatter in Embobut Forest, you know that even when we were growing up, if you get one shoe or one watch like the one I got when I was in primary school, that is your Sunday best. That is your Sunday best. It's that one expensive thing you have that sometimes you are happy with. But to say I'm opulent, Mr. Speaker, I must say this with utmost respect. I have never gloated anywhere about anything I wear, anything I have, Mr. Speaker. Even where I live, Mr. Speaker, I've never gone to announce to people that I have this kind of a house. Or, Mr. Speaker, I've never even bragged about the car I drive, even if all those things could be more expensive than the things that have been mentioned. And I have said this, and I say this when the president nominated me. There is a verse in the Bible that says, if your eye is going to hurt a neighbor or your hand is going to hurt a neighbor, you better gouge it out so that you don't make your neighbor to sin. And I say this when the president nominated me, that if in any way I behaved either by speech or conduct or my lifestyle, Mr. Speaker, in a manner that hurts any Kenyan, I apologize profusely. Mr. Speaker, that I said, and I mean it. I mean it as a Kipchumba, and I mean it as a Christian. That if I had, and Mr. Speaker, to demonstrate my commitment, Mr. Speaker, if any Kenyan tells me tomorrow that you can only wear butter shoes, and it will help me, Mr. Speaker, I'm being very honest, that if you wear only butter shoes, it will promote us to focus on your job and to hold you account on your job, Mr. Speaker, I'll do so. Because I do not want anything to distract the people of Kenya from the things I do. And I say this, Mr. Speaker, this is the conclusion, having managed, Mr. Speaker, a ministry that has so many agencies and a huge budget, I am extremely proud as Kipchumba Murkomen that for 2 years, I have not been mentioned on questions of incompetence. I've done my job with utmost hard work. The people I've left back in the ministry are very proud of the work we did. Number two, Mr. Speaker, that in those 2 years, I have not been accused by anybody on anything related to impropriety or corruption. Integrity is my middle name, Mr. Speaker, and I intend to keep that integrity, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the misconception that came around this. And I will remain in that narrow path, Mr. Speaker, for the benefit of our country.
Don't fear, don't live in fear. Honorable Murkomen, I'll ask you two short questions. Number one, I'll take you back to football, because football is the most captive sport